Hello everyone, welcome to another video on internet programming. In today's session, we will talk about what is CSS backgrounds and its constituent properties. This is the first in series of videos designed to teach you the CSS background and its properties. CSS is an acronym for Cascading Style Sheets. It is a simple yet powerful design language that has the ability to transform web pages. In simple terms, it streamlines the process of making web pages presentable and appealing to the user with the help of HTML. And in this video, we will understand how to implement various background properties in CSS in the following order. We will get familiarized with each of these properties and see when and how to use them with some interesting demonstration. CSS backgrounds. CSS is an important language that we can use for tasks like document text styling, animation, and web development. There are many different CSS properties that we can use to manipulate and customize our web pages. CSS background is one of those properties. We can use the CSS background property to set our background colors, images, sizes, and much more. CSS properties allow us to specify the foreground color and background color of an element. Backgrounds may be colors or images. The background properties allow us to position the image, repeat it, and declare whether it should be fixed or scrolled. The CSS background properties are used to add background effects for elements. The CSS background properties let us to control the size and properties of images so that we can make responsive images for both smaller and larger screens. This is a list of all the properties we're going to discuss today. The red text at the end is the shorthand. The background property is a shorthand property for all the properties listed above. The background property sets or returns up to 8 separate background properties in a shorthand form. With this property, you can set or return one or more of the following in any order. The CSS background property is used to define the background effects on element. And these are the CSS background properties that affects the HTML elements. The background color property is used to set the background color of an element. The background image property is used to set the background image of an element. The background repeat property is used to control the repetition of an image in the background. The background position property is used to control the position of an image in the background. The background size property sets the size of a background image. The background attachment property is used to control the scrolling of an image in the background. The background origin property specifies the origin position, the background positioning area of a background image. The background clip property defines how far the background image or color should extend within an element. The background shorthand property sets all the background properties in one declaration. Background color property. The background color property is used to specify the background color of an element. You can use this property to fill your background with color. This is the simplest of all properties in CSS applies. It applies solid colors to the background of the page. The value of background color property can be specified in 4 ways, such as HTML color names, hex color codes, RGB and RGBA values, HSL and HSLA color values. The syntax for background color property is written as property name and a value separated by colon. There are different property values that we can use to control aspects of background color. These values include color, opacity, transparent, initial, inherit. The value color is the name of the background color like red, blue, black, white. The background color accepts a single color as its value, which can be a keyword, hex, RGB, RGBA, HSL or HSLA color value. The value opacity specifies the opacity of an element. Opacity is the degree to which the content behind an element is hidden, and it is opposite of transparency. The opacity property can take value from 0.0 to 1.0. The opacity level describes the transparency level, where 1 is not transparent and 0 is completely transparent. Transparent keyword can be used to make an HTML element transparent. For example, to set a transparent background, the transparent keyword can be used anywhere a color value is accepted. This allows you to set items to transparent so that any background element will show through. The default value for CSS background color is transparent. The initial CSS keyword applies the initial or default value of a property to an element. So the element's background will shine through by default. Because the initial keyword will set this property to its default value transparent. The inherit value will inherit this property from its parent element. That is, if the value is set to inherit, the elements will inherit the background color from its parent element. Let's understand the background color property and explore some examples of how to use this property in CSS. Color keywords are case-insensitive identifiers that represents a specific color, such as red, blue, black, or light sea green. World Wide Web Consortium has listed 16 valid color names for HTML and CSS. And these colors can always be rendered properly. For example, you can specify pure red background color in CSS as I mentioned here. The color name value of this property defines the value of the background color or specifies the color codes. It can be given by using the color name, Rgb value or hexadecimal value. You can use one of the 140 plus color names. CSS values for colors are not case sensitive. Upper and lowercase values does the same. HTML recognizes only 16 basic color keywords found in CSS1. Unlike HTML, CSS will completely ignore unknown keywords. The color keywords represent plain solid colors without transparency. The CSS level 1 only included 16 basic colors called VJ.K colors, as they were taken from the set of displayable colors on VJ.K graphic cards. CSS level 2 added the orange keyword. CSS level 3 are called as extended color keywords as they adopt most of the colors from X11 color list or SVG colors. Now the new browsers can recognize up to 147 CSS3 color names. CSS colors level 4 added the Rebecca purple keyword to honor the web pioneer Eric Meyer. And this is a sample coding for background color property. We write the syntax after writing the selector name like this. The background color property is used to change the background color. Inserting into the body element, you will have a full colored cover of the page. CSS hex code must begin with the number sign hash, also known as pound sign or a hash symbol, followed by 6 digits of hexadecimal values. Each pair of 2 digits represents red, green and blue. The pattern looks like hash RR GG BB, where red is R, green is G and blue is B. Colors are represented by a combination of red, green, blue values. The lowest value 00 will be the darkest version of the color closest to black, and the highest value FF will be the lightest version of the color closest to white. Using an alpha value to update the color transparency will change the hex code format from hash RR GG BB to hash RR GG BB AA, where alpha is A. The first 6 values red, green, blue remains the same. The AA value in hash RR GG BB AA can range from the lowest value 00 to highest value FF. Hex is a variant of RGB in which the values for each parameter are in hexadecimal format. The background color value can be expressed in hexadecimal values such as hash FF, hash 000000 and hash FF0000. The color value for hexadecimal notation is case insensitive, treating or interpreting the upper and lowercase letters as being the same. A hexadecimal color is specified with hash RR GG BB, where RR is red, GG is green and BB is blue. And these will have hexadecimal integers that specify the components of the color. The syntax consists of hash sign followed by hexadecimal value, which will range from 00 to FF. In decimal, the value range from 0 to 255. For example, hash FF0000 is displayed as red because red is set to its highest value FF and the others are set to the lowest value 00. To display black, set all the values to 00 like hash 000000. To display white, set all the values to FF like hash FF. In past, there were only 3 hexadecimal parameters, one for red, another for green and another for blue. The 3-digit hex color contained 3 characters followed by hash like hash RGB. A value of 00 would mean the complete absence of the color, while FF would indicate its complete presence. The higher the numbers, the lighter the color. Sometimes you will see a 3-digit hex code in the CSS source. The 3-digit hex code is a shorthand for some 6-digit hex codes. The 3-digit hex code has the following form: hash Rgb, where Rg and blue represents the red, green and blue components with values between 0 and F. The 3-digit hex code can only be used when both the values RR, GG and BB are the same for each component. So if we have hash FF00CC, it can be written like hash F0C. A fourth optional hexadecimal value can be provided to indicate alpha. So instead of writing hash RR, GG, BB, AA, we can write it as hash RGBA, where RGBA represents red, green, blue component and alpha channel. The alpha component specifies the transparency of the color. The alpha channel value can range from the lowest value 00 to highest value FF. 00 would be completely transparent and FF would be completely opaque. Lowering the value will cause the visibility to become transparent. Raising the value will cause the visibility to become more and more opaque. Hex values are actually just a different way to represent RGB values. Some 6-digit hex color can be written using 3-digit shorthand. 3-digit shorthand is where you combine the duplicate digits from each color component into one. This results in a 3-digit hex number instead of 6. To convert a 6-digit code into 3, simply dedupe the duplicate value from each component. Here is an example of the same color using both the full hex notation and the shortcut version. See how we have just deduped the duplicate characters from each color component. We have converted 33 to 3, 66 to 6 and 99 to 9. Both the values in this example result in the same color. Where 4-digit hex color can be used to define the color of your element with 8-digit hex codes. Some 8-digit hex color can be written using 4-digit shorthand. 4-digit shorthand is where you combine the duplicate digits from each color component into one. So this results in a 4-digit hex number instead of 8. To convert a 8-digit code into 4, simply dedupe the duplicate value from each component. And here is an example of the same color using both the full hex notation and the shorthand version. And here we have just deduped the duplicate characters from each color component. We have converted FF to F, CC to C, 00 to 0 and CC to C. Both the values of this example result in the same color. Note that you can only use the shorthand method when both the values are same for each of the RGB components. So you couldn't turn hash FC045606 into shorthand because each of the RGB component uses different value. In this case, the red component uses FC, the green component uses 04, the blue component uses 56 and the alpha channel uses 06. You can't dedupe those as they are unique values. In this example, we are defining the value of the background color property using hexadecimal value for a shade of green cyan. Next, you can change the transparency by adding 2 more values to the hex code. And in this example, the alpha value was set to 24 so that it will set 14% alpha transparency to the shade of green cyan. And you can also see the difference over here. And here is an example to demonstrate the 3-digit hexadecimal representation of a color of the form hash Rgb. And in this example, we mentioned the hex triplet value hash C0F, which will display the color closest to magenta, and also this color can be known as vivid orchid. As I mentioned earlier, 4-digit shorthand is where you combine the duplicate digits from each color component into one. This results in 4-digit hex number instead of 8. You can use 3-digit shorthand, but this does not allow for an alpha channel. It simply represents the red, green and blue components and the resulting color will be fully opaque. So the 8-digit hex color is stringed to 4-digit hex followed by hash, like hash RGBA. The last character A represents alpha channel that defines the transparency. In this example, I am using the same color, but this time I am using the alpha channel value which is set to 3. So 20% of transparency is applied. So it will display the color. And you can see the color difference in which we applied the alpha value. Lowering the value will cause the visibility to become fainter and fainter until it becomes transparent. Raising the value will cause the visibility to become more and more opaque. The alpha value in the hexadecimal format can be a little confusing because it is hard to conceptualize what base 16 value for transparency will actually look like. However, the benefit is if you are already using hex codes in your code base, now you can update them to change the transparency too. The RGB function allows you to specify the RGB color value by specifying the red, green and blue channels directly. Each of the three values can be provided as an integer or as a percentage. The RGB function accepts the RGB value as a parameter. Each parameter, that is red, green, blue, defines the intensity of the color between 0 to 255 or a percentage value from 0 to 100%. The RGB value is provided as a comma separated list of three values providing the red, green and blue hues respectively. As I mentioned earlier, you can also use the hexadecimal equivalent to the decimal RGB values. The format of the RGB value in hexadecimal notation is hash immediately followed by 3 or 6 hexadecimal characters. But in the format of RGB value in the functional notation is RGB followed by comma separated list of three numerical values, and the three values are the integer values ranging from 0 to 255 corresponds with the percentage value from 0 to 100%. Here is an example of using RGB function to define colors for a web page. You can see that the RGB value shows various levels of red, green and blue, and this effectively blends all the three, resulting in the final color. Rgba is a 4-channel format containing data for red, green, blue and an alpha value. The Rgba functional notation expresses a color according to its red, green and blue components. An optional alpha component represents the color's transparency. The Rgba function works just like the RGB function. The Rgba value is provided as a comma separated list of 4 values which represents red, green, blue and alpha channels respectively. Each of the RGB value can be provided as an integer or as a percentage. The integer value 255 corresponds with the percentage value of 100%. However, on the alpha channel, the value should be in the range of 0.0 to 1.0. In this example, I am using the same color which I have used in RGB function. But here I am using the background color with one different alpha value. For instance, to achieve 30% transparency for the particular element, you need to set the alpha value as 0.3. The number parameter in alpha channel ranges from 0 to 1. 0 for fully transparent and 1 for not transparent at all. HSL stands for hue, saturation, lightness. HSL is a hue-based representation of the RGB color space of computer graphics. HSL functional notation expresses a given color according to its hue, saturation and lightness components. The HSL color model is used in numerical color specifications. The advantage of HSL over RGB is that it is easy to use and you can guess at the colors you want and then tweak. It is also easier to create sets of matching colors by keeping the hue same and varying the lightness and saturation. The format of HSL color value in functional notation is HSL followed by hue in degrees, saturation and lightness as percentage. The HSL function accepts the HSL value as a parameter. The HSL value is provided as a comma separated list of 3 values providing hue, saturation and light components respectively. The hue component represents an angle of the color circle. For example, if you look at the color circle, blue is at 240 degrees. So it could be written as either 240 degree or 240. The hue value range from 0 to 360 degrees. Regarding the color wheel, 0 degree stands for red, 120 degree for green and 240 for blue. You can specify the value as an angle in degrees or simply as a number. Hue is one pure pigment without any tint or shade. Color saturation is about intensity. The second value is expressed as a percentage. It represents the amount of saturation in the color. For example, 100% is fully saturated, that is more colorful and intense, while 0 is fully unsaturated gray. To be simple, 0% stands for gray and 100% is maximum intensity. Lightness is about how light color is. The third value, lightness, is also expressed as a percentage. It represents the amount of light in the color. For lightness, 50% is the normal setting, while 100% is white and 0% is black. That is 0% means the color is black because completely no light, 50% color is neutral and 100% color is white. Shades of grey are often defined by setting the hue and saturation to 0 and adjust the lightness from 0% to 100% to get darker or lighter shades. Well, one of the biggest advantage of using HSL is its readability. You don't have to spend many hours to learn how to read a hex code. Also, it's much easier than imagining RGB. Whereas the RGB color system can be arranged as a cube with 255 discrete points per side. Although a cube may seem simple, it is actually fairly challenging to visualize the differences between colors. In addition, identifying the complementary colors is not much easier. So the HSL system was developed as a way to evolve the RGB color system by making it easier to visualize. In HSL, hue determines the color. It is represented in 360 degrees like a traditional color wheel. One of the main advantages of HSL over RGB color is the complementary colors are located across from one another, which makes the whole system very intuitive. The distance from the middle of the color wheel is called the saturation, or how much of the given hue is present. Looking closely at the color wheel, it is apparent that the color becomes more brighter and more vivid as one travels from the center of the circle to the edge. The lightness value of an HSL color is in 3 dimension, which actually makes the HSL system a cylinder. In the given diagram, the lightness of the color is a gradient between black and white, where the bottom of the cylinder is totally black and top of the cylinder is totally white. Here is a working example of using HSL function to define colors for a web page. In this example, the hue is set to 30 degree. So the output will display the orange color, and saturation to 100% will get 100% pure color with no shades of gray. And setting lightness to 50% means 50% light, that is neither dark or light. The hsla function can be used to add transparency to the color when using HSL model. HSLA color values are an extension of HSL color values with an alpha channel, which specifies the opacity for a color. The format of an HSLA color value in functional notation is HSLA followed by hue in degrees, saturation and lightness as percentage, and an alpha value. The HSLA function accepts the HSLA value as a parameter. The HSLA value is provided as a comma-separated list of 4 values. The 3 HSL value which provide the hue, saturation and lightness components respectively, and the 4th value which provides the alpha channel. The hue component represents an angle of the color circle. You can specify the value as an angle in degrees or simply as a number. For example, if you look at the color circle, blue is at 240 degrees, so it could be written as either 240 degree or 240. The second value is expressed as a percentage. It represents the amount of saturation in the color. For example, 100% is fully saturated, while 0 is fully unsaturated gray. The third value is also expressed as a percentage. It represents the amount of light in the color. For lightness, 50% is the normal setting, while 100% is white and 0% is black. The fourth value is the alpha value. It determines how transparent the color is. A value of 1 is fully opaque, while value of 0 is fully transparent, and a value of 0.5 is semi-transparent. Here is an example of using HSLA function to define a color for a web page. In this example, I am using the same color which I have used in HSL function. But here I am using the background color with one different alpha value. The alpha is the color opacity, that is the number between 0 to 1. The alpha value is set to 0.3 and it will display a very transparent solid orange. The opacity property sets the opacity of an element. Opacity is the degree to which the content behind an element is hidden, and it is opposite of transparency. The opacity property allows you to specify the level of opacity against an object so that it becomes semi-transparent or even fully transparent. The opacity property value must be a number between 0.0 for fully transparent and 1.0 for fully opaque. These are the possible values. The number is an alpha value which specifies the amount of transparency that should be applied to an element. A value of 0.0 specifies fully transparent and the value of 1.0 specifies fully opaque. The initial keyword sets the property to its default value. Opacity has a default initial value of 1, that is 100% opaque. The inherit keyword inherits the property from its parent element. It indicates that an element will inherit the opacity from its parent element. For example, if opacity property is expressed as a number, it can be between 1.0 and 0.0. A value of 1.0 means that the element is fully opaque and you can't see behind the element. A value of 0.0 means that the element will be fully transparent, that is invisible. The opacity value 0.5 is called translucent or semi-transparent. Opacity and RGBA are not only the main elements for setting transparency on any element, but also the most confusing one for the web designers. And here is an easy comparison of opacity versus RGBA. The opacity is a property which specifies the transparency level of a particular element through CSS. The requirement for opacity value varies between 0 and 1. For instance, to achieve 30% transparency for a particular element, we need to set the opacity value as 0.3. And the diagram given below is an example output of 30% opacity. Whereas RGBA defines colors using red, green, blue and alpha value. Alpha is opacity level of color. The RGB specifies the intensity of red, green, blue colors between 0 to 255 or a percentage value between 0% to 100%. A stands for alpha in RGBA, which defines the opacity as a number between 0.0 to 1.0. 0.0 identifies fully transparent and 1.0 for fully opaque. For instance, to achieve 30% transparency for a particular element, we need to set the alpha value as 0.3. And the given diagram is an example for RGBA with alpha value 0.3, which is 30% alpha. Though both elements are used for transparency of an element, there is some basic but important difference between RGBA and opacity that makes them work differently. The primary difference is the opacity is applied to the sub-elements also, whereas RGBA applies the transparency of the color to the particular element only. Here is an example of opacity for div background color, and the opacity allows the div element to be more transparent. In this example, the opacity property adds transparency to the background of an element and to all of its child elements as well. This makes the text inside a transparent element hard to read. To not apply opacity to its child element, like in the example above, use RGBA color values instead. This example sets the opacity for the background color but not for the text. The transparent keyword is used to make a color transparent. This is often used to make a transparent background color for an element. The transparent color in CSS makes the background element visible. Transparent color can be applied with background color property and color. If we take background color as transparent, then it makes the backside elements of the background completely visible. The background color with transparent value makes the background color completely transparent, that is, it will disappear. By default, the background color is transparent, meaning that there is no background color. CSS color module level 3 specification defines a keyword transparent. It makes backside elements of background completely visible. The semi-transparent feature can be achieved through RGBA value with background color and color property. The transparent keyword is equivalent to RGBA with values 0, 0, 0, 0. RGBA color values are an extension of RGB color values with an alpha channel, which specifies the opacity for a color. In this example, the background color is set to transparent. So the transparent keyword will make an element completely transparent or visible. The initial keyword is used to set a CSS property to its default value. Initial keyword can be used for any CSS property and on any HTML elements. The initial keyword is used to set the default value. The transparent is the default value. To understand the initial keyword, we have to remember an important fact that every CSS property has its default value. The initial keyword tells the browser to use the CSS default value for the given property. Here the background color of the body element will be fully transparent and the background will show through. The initial keyword in this example will set the background color to its default value, which is transparent. So the background color of the body element will be fully transparent and the background will shine through. The inherit keyword inherits its background color from its parent element. It allows us to inherit all its parent value to its child element. Some of the properties are automatically inherited from parent to child because of cascading nature of CSS. The inherit keyword tells the browser to search for the closest parent element's value and let the current element inherit that value. The inherit keyword can be used for any CSS property and on any HTML element. The inherit keyword causes an element to take the computed value of the property from its parent element. The inherit value enables inheritance on all CSS properties. With inherit, the specified element will take the value of the specified property from its parent element. In this example, we have applied the style once on parent and do a little tweak on the child to inherit. The inherit keyword allows the sublist to take the computed property value from its parent element, and the result will look like this. The border style is applied to both parent list and the sublist. You can also add a background color to specific elements in your document. You can set the background color for any HTML elements. This code demonstrates how to set the background color for an element. Here the h1, p and div element will have different background colors. So with this we have come to the end of the session and get back to you in next video. Thanks for watching.